Well, hello. My name is Lenore Rattray, and this is Stand Up 8, Episode 9. It's a bonus Episode 9 from Season 1. And why are we doing a bonus episode? Well, honestly, it really was originally part of the plan. 9 days missing, 9 episodes. But when I got to the end of episode 8, I felt incredibly empowered. I'd made it through all 8 days mentally. I had found that through the writing and the storytelling that it was all still there. And the difference, I guess, this time the big difference was I was the one that was in charge. I was in charge of me and, more importantly, how the story was told. This was back last year, I guess, March-ish, February, maybe. Weirdly, if I think back, it still felt unfinished and kind of a looming question of what now existed. I figured I need to celebrate. I need to symbolically bring people together and look at this as a milestone, this completion of this storytelling, and for me, owning my story. So 1 year ago, on March the 12th, 2024, I invited a group of those close to me and respected voices, a lot impacted or helping others with trauma, to a place of celebration. We went to a pub in North Vancouver, Mount Seymour, exactly steps away from where I was found. And it was to be the official launch of the first 8 episodes of Stand Up 8, the podcast. I handpicked this location. It was a pub called The Raven. I have a bit of an attachment to Raven symbolically, thanks in part to my name and Edgar Allan Poe. You know, nevermore, nevermore. It was actually pretty cool. We sipped wine, we ate pizza, we shared stories. We listened to a preview of the podcast and we overlooked the ocean. We talked about the impact of our shared traumas and how we were all interconnected. And this, to me, was how I chose to celebrate getting through this small part of a bigger story. My story, my life, so far. There were about 20 of us there. Some of us drove, some of us took transit. There were bridges and busy highways and rain in Vancouver to power through. But the community that was there and the sharing through the stories was amazing. And then that was done, and I couldn't stop thinking about what was next. Is this the end of it? Is this the end of the story, the end of my work? Well, no, certainly it's not. I'm on a roll. I'm still here living it, processing. So after the launch for the first time ever, I thought, I think I need to go revisit where I was for 9 days. The location in the woods. So I reached out to the person who first suggested this might be fun to do. My writing mentor turned podcast producer and former CBC radio host, JJ Lee. And he said yes. As JJ does so well, he had a plan. He said, let's not just record it, let's film it. Which is what we did. We were strapped with cameras, well, he was, microphones, and our rain gear. And on Saturday, June the 15th, 2024, we went to revisit it all. Camp Hell and more. The goal? Well, there really wasn't one other than possibly another step in my continual journey to own this story. It was one of those things that sounds like a really good idea, and in the moment everybody says, yeah, let's do it. And as you get closer, you question what the hell you were thinking. My emotion, as far as I could tell, wasn't attached. In fairness, it had been 32 years since this had happened. I had spent 9 days in Camp Hell, and after getting really sick 9 years ago, I have done a lot of work, forced to do a lot of work in understanding the impact that this crime had on me. It wasn't like I was jumping in the car and doing this unprepared. As well, in the back of my mind, I understood that this thinking could change. Nobody was forcing me to do this. I was in total control. Anyway, it had been raining for days prior to this. It was one of those soggy Junes. And as I headed out the door at 8 a.m. to pick JJ up so that we could head down in my car together, my preparations pretty much meant grab an umbrella. I knew JJ would be bringing a camera, but for whatever reason, I didn't do any prep as to what I was going to say, and I really didn't put much thought into what I was going to wear, really, or look like. My thoughts were more on the experience itself. My go-to outfit typically was some sort of black t-shirt and jeans. Today's t-shirt had a raccoon decal on it, and it said Urban Panda. I covered it all up with my favorite lightweight khaki jacket. It had pockets everywhere and allowed me to have my hands free so I could have my phone and my keys and maybe a bank card all at the ready. I wanted to always have my camera in hand. I knew that there would definitely be moments to capture. And I am arguably one of those annoying people that pretty much documents every single moment in my life, and this moment was a big one. JJ and I connected pretty easy. I pulled up outside his apartment building and he was waiting. He jumped in the car and he was eager to go. His energy always made these things easy. The fact that he sat in the back seat filming me felt a little different, but it was JJ and he made it feel normal. He just let me talk as we drove to our first stop, the former Suter Studios location at Boundary and Hastings in Vancouver, the original scene of the crime. I've never gone back or visited this place since I was taken from there in 1992. Until now, I never thought of why. It was honestly just a soulless place to work in the first place. Being kidnapped from there was a big, fat, sloppy pile of icing on the cake. At the time of the kidnapping, I had only worked there a few months, and they were pretty miserable months, job-wise. I guess the thing that stands out most about my time being there was just feeling totally alone. The torturous 8 hours spent in a setting that was cluttered and busy and full of framed fake smiles made it even more soulless. It wasn't warm, it wasn't inviting, it was like the fast food of photography. Anyway, as JJ and I pulled into the former Suter's neighborhood in my little old trusty black Honda, I felt my chest tighten, but not really for reasons of fear or dread. It was more for confusion. I actually had no idea what block the studio had been on. I knew it was near the main bus loop, but somehow when we got there, it didn't look right. We parked on the opposite side of Hastings Street, but the businesses that were there now in place of the studio didn't make sense. The location didn't make sense, and I couldn't figure out why. JJ had a plan to film me kind of street reporter style across the street, prompting me to talk about how I felt, and all I could say was I didn't really feel anything. I just didn't know where I was. I remember coming down Boundary Road. I remember turning onto a road and parking my car. And anyway, I'm here with JJ, and we were pretty convinced that the next block across from Kootenay Loop was where everything was, and we were wrong. Thankfully, we found an old picture with the address, so this is it. Suter Studio, 3618 Hastings Street in Vancouver. And it is now Tasmanian Comics. We were on the wrong block. It was the next one over. Suter Studios had now become a comic book store. It was a pretty big one, too. I walked across the street. I stood in front of it. I looked in the window as the shop wasn't open yet, and I felt nothing. Like nothing at all. It was just a shop selling comics. And the only thing that looked the same was it was the exact same glass door. I had no emotional attachment to this space whatsoever. This feeling of disconnect all changed, however, when we walked down the street and around the corner to where I had left my car parked on that life-changing day of July 3rd, 1992. There it is. That's where I would have been parked, right there, probably where that white car is. And that's where it sat. And again, though, when you look in the police reports, the information about that is vague, which to me is a big deal, but I guess that's the point in all of this. There's all different truths when these things happen, and this is me looking to discover mine. In my mind, my brother found my car. These are some of the pieces I put together, but my brother, the night that I went missing, went to see if I was at the studio, and when they went on the street behind where I guess they knew I parked, my car was still there. So anyway, I'm going to take a picture here of the street where I parked and where my car would have been. This street, weirdly, has more emotion to me than Suitors. This is where I left my baby. My car that I was so possessive of. My 81 Cutlass. Kind of cool to be back. I remembered exactly where that was, where I parked. And honestly, the street had changed very little. It was still dark and shaded from the elements by the big trees that lined the edges. There were way more cars parked there now, and in my mind, as I look back, I could see how it was in my time. My little 81 olds parked, sitting, waiting for me to take her away. There were usually only a few other cars parked around her. Where the sadness set in. Sadness for that girl that was forced to leave her prized possession, her car, sitting all alone. Sadness for the girl who was forced to face such an ugliness, what I became to know, a very unknown fate. Sadness for the 9 days of hell that I knew lay ahead for her. And that's where it started to get very real, this visit back. This was really my life, a big piece of it. I lived this, and really I am living this. JJ kept filming. My expressions were now very sour. My responses less playful. I am sure that the diagonal wrinkle in the middle of my forehead that carries most of my dark moments dug an extra little groove or two in that moment. There really wasn't much to say. It was more a feeling of loss, of dread, of the knowledge that this so easily happened. And nothing would ever change that. On the positive side, it had totally stopped raining. It wasn't even misting. I could just stand there and slowly sip my Starbucks Americano and ponder all that had brought me from there to here and the decades that had passed. Today I was in control. I reminded myself that. Or I was playing a damn good job at pretending. The next stop was the big one. Camp Hell. It was a ways away, 8 kilometers to be exact. JJ was still in reporter on the street mode. It was a nice distraction, honestly. Kind of made the weirdness of this all feel sort of important, like a task on a list of to-dos. It kept me positive. It kept me removed. His comments were focused on what shots he wanted to take and what kind of B-roll would be cool to have and whatever B-roll is. And I just talked and drove. It was just something to do. Normal stuff, you know, like people do this every day. We started driving over the bridge, and every time I drive over this bridge, the Iron Workers Memorial Bridge, as it is called, like every time over the last 32 years, my heart sinks. As I drive, in the seconds that it takes to cross, I always vividly remember walking side by side with that person. I also hear the roar of the constant, soulless traffic as it whips by us without a second thought. I could see myself pushing him, possibly fumbling because I was weak, and him reacting and pulling me with him into moving traffic. I mean, nobody was slowing down for us as it was. They were all traveling at least 80k an hour, I would guess. A body or two suddenly falling and landing in front of them would be a mess. If I survived, I would be a mess. Every time I drive over this bridge, I see her, naive little me. I feel her struggling with what to do in that moment. It's a big bridge. It was a long, terrifying walk. Did anyone ever wonder why not one person that we know of traveling that bridge in rush hour on that sunny, clear day in July 92 thought, that young blonde woman walking across this non-pedestrian friendly bridge with that filthy, much older man doesn't look right. Maybe I should tell someone. Maybe the police. But no one did. And I don't know. I just don't know. These are just some of the random thoughts that swirl in me on the bridge. Anyway, JJ and I kept going. We had one more stop on this flashback mission. Parking near Mosquito Creek was surprisingly easy. There was a new subdivision on the same side of the highway as the Mosquito Creek Park where I was kept, and seeing no parking signs, I parked. I knew there was some sort of pathway on the side of the highway that would at least take us close to where I remember us entering the woods. At this point, I honestly just wanted to get inside those trees and see. I had no expectations. Oddly, I guess I wasn't scared, except maybe, arguably again, naive. JJ was in total work mode too, which helped. All he cared about was what kind of shot he was going to get. There was no discussion about emotion. He never once asked how I was feeling. And that was okay. So I just walked, and of course documented in my own way with my phone in my hand. I took a quick few shots of the traffic and the Westview Shopping Center right across the road. JJ was looming somewhere way off in the distance behind me, quietly doing his filming thing. There was a big red wrong way sign, which seemed appropriate. It was more intended for cars, but I stopped and took a selfie with it. I felt it was a poignant warning on this journey back to this stupid place. I walked alone, again with the roar of the highway right beside me, towards the dark slit of an entrance in the bushes ahead. My heart was pounding. Fuck. I knew it when I saw it. It was all still there. It was exactly the same as my mind so vividly remembered it to be, even though I had only entered that forest once, 32 years prior. It was fascinating and terrifying all at once. It was an entrance that could easily be missed. The growth and the foliage around it perfectly masked what lay behind. And leading up to it, if you look closely, were not just one, but two well-worn but very narrow paths that led to the slit. The area I call Camp hell? I found it. I think we would find out soon enough anyway. Holy fucking shit. JJ had caught up to me now. It was back to business talk, strategizing the grand entrance. Both of our hearts were beating quickly in anticipation of our next steps. We had no idea what, if anything, was in there, or who, for that matter. I didn't need to take a breath or regroup or anything. My curiosity levels were screaming at me. I never even gave a second thought to the possibility that this wasn't a safe thing to do. It was just what we were doing. And the key part that made it so simple, maybe, was that I wasn't alone. And what also helped is that I wasn't personally attached. I was kind of watching this experience unfold around me like it was a movie. On JJ's cue, he held the back of my coat and followed me in, filming the whole time. Entering. So bizarre. It was instantly familiar. It was instantly peaceful. And that surprised me. Well, the first time in 33 years, I'm walking back in here, and it's exactly the same. This is it. I'm pretty sure this is the tree. Either that tree or this tree. I'm pretty sure this is exactly where it was. It wasn't overgrown. In its structure as a forest setting, it hadn't changed. We didn't even have to walk far in, and we were totally hidden from the world. But yet, you could still hear the traffic humming. I knew this place. I felt it. I don't want to say it felt like home, but I felt a connection here, and interestingly, it wasn't sad. It was kind of settling. And it was cool that all I had seen in my mind and imagined it to be was the same. Still, maybe that was the settling part. My mind was put to rest that I wasn't making this up. I found the bad place, but the bad guy and the shit and the garbage and the guns and the smell were gone. And it just felt good, peaceful, like I said, sort of, and a bit confusing. Confusing because I couldn't find the tree. The infamous fucking tree. The tree that somehow keeps getting reported that I was tied to. I was never tied to a tree. The absence of attention to these details bugs me, in case that's not obvious. I saw it in court documents, police statements, and a stupid book that was published about the bad guy. Where it started, I don't know, but it wasn't true. Anyway, it was important to me now to find that exact tree, and I eventually did. This is where it happened. JJ and I called it tree number 3. For 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, we just poked around, JJ and I. We were mostly quiet, although I rambled a bit, kind of excited-like, pointing out familiar things like the skinny tree that was still there, that he tied the clear plastic to shelter us from the rain. Just like back then, though, there were no squirrels, no chirping birds, only trees and traffic. And maybe if we sat long enough amongst the dirt and the vines, my quiet little armadillo friends, the cellbugs, would show up. You can see civilization. You can see the stores. They could see us. But there was no pedestrian walkway here at that time. I mean, there's not really one now. Nobody would have known. And if they would have seen something, oh, it's just another homeless camp. I soaked it all in. There were a few random beer cans, but mostly it was just green and clean. Coupled with the highway traffic in the distance, the irony that this scene was now so peaceful compared to its history was deafening. If I was allowed to stand up then, I would have seen how close I really was to humanity and freedom.
When you think about how close you were to help, and yet it was so far away, how do you make sense of it all?
I don't make sense of it all. Well, to me, it's got these, deeper connections to society not seeing what's in front of us. I mean, I'd imagined 100,000 times crashing through the bushes, running to the highway that you can see right here, screaming. But I'd be naked. I was dirty. I was broken. I'd been sitting. I didn't know if I could run. I mean, if no one's going to investigate any further when they see a camp in the woods and wonder what's going on there, who's going to help a screaming crazy person running down the street? And would I even make it to the street? And I don't, even being here, I don't second guess anything that I did then, or any trust I had in that I would be okay. I don't feel that I should have done anything, because even right now, my life was I had no control. It was not up to me. I've had read so many things talking about that I was tied to a tree. And I was never tied to a tree. If you look at the tree, it's a massive tree. And to get a rope around it and tie me to it, it would have been something out of, like, I don't know, some fictional superhero something. I was never tied to a tree. I was tied to myself. I was hog-tied. Again, what's the truth? Do I know the truth?
You mentioned that they're inaccurate, but you're also here now. The facts of the place are in front of you.
Yeah.
And you've told the story now to people. How do you feel you've done it? Like, how are your facts lining up with what the reality is here?
Well, I'll admit when some things are a bit fuzzy, but in my mind, there are some things that are solid. And out of all the stuff that has gone on in my life in the last 33 years, weirdly, this is pretty solid. I guess we know what we know, and that's our truth.
What's your truth right now?
It's pretty cool that it's my choice to be here, and that I'm here, and that if he wasn't caught, I don't know how my processing would have been over the years. If he was still lurking out there and I never knew, I don't feel in who I am that I would be in the same headspace as I am right here, right now. But right now, I know he can't touch me. It's cut and dry. The only thing that his actions, I should say, can touch is me psychologically. Most likely being here will catch up with me over the next week. And as I look at the footage and as I realize, holy shit, I did that. But in all the other cases, there's another side of me that flips to, why bother? Why this is silly. It's, just move on, or whatever. Like, but it's cool to be here, to be honest. It's sad, it's heartbreaking to think of that girl. Holy fuck, it's heartbreaking. She just had no choice. Nothing was up to her. And she just had to trust that somehow this would end. And that really goes back to, I guess, why I even did the podcast in the first place, or why I even wrote it, because the question is, how do we survive stuff? How do we keep living with it? I'm still working on that. I have a daughter. I got to keep her alive now, apparently. This is all what it's about. This is the power of being here, is being stronger within myself. It wasn't my choice to come here. I mean, originally, in the slow motion process of it, walking 8 kilometers. But it just shows how blind we are to what's going on around us. Whether that's different now, I don't know, but I do have the privilege of having a friendship with Detective Stu, and they had no leads, none. Nobody, not one person said they saw me.
Are we here because you finally want to be seen here?
No, that wouldn't be the reason. I'm here for me. Something to do.
Does that mean you're seeing yourself? Like you're kind of acknowledging what happened here?
Yeah, it's
You're talking about 8 days of it not being acknowledged.
I don't want to hang my life on, I was a missing person for 9 days. But that was such a powerful experience in terms of shaping me, but not defining me. So it's exploring that, what impact that has had on my life, and in leading up to the anniversary time, I always like to do something symbolically that makes me feel powerful, more powerful every year. Because it's very possible that I would be a bag of bones under all of these vines at this point. No one would have found me. This is exactly the same as it was 33 years ago. Who's going to come and dig this up? They might have found the homeless camp. They might have found remnants of his garbage and feces. I don't know. But I mean, if you look over there, there's evidence of, some people come here and party. There's some beer cans and stuff. So it's more just to move forward by kind of facing something that you never have to go back to again. We just chatted, real questions. As much as I hate having a camera in my face, the realness here of it all was reassuring. We just chatted, real questions and real answers of what it was like to be here. I felt lucky that I was able to be back physically and finally on my own terms. Another pretty cool yet quiet step on this owning my story path. Thanks for listening. So, what is next? Well, one of the questions I most frequently get asked is, what could you possibly talk about? Haven't you told your story already? And to that, I kind of laugh on the inside a little. Silly asker, I think. That's not my story. My time at Camp Hell is definitely one story. I mean, we're all interconnected, and all of our stories, when told a certain way, are impactful. We tend to gravitate towards the ones that are bigger in terms of terrifying details or intensity or unfathomable circumstances like true crime. We ask ourselves things like, how could that ever happen? But our exposure to the survivors is limited, and the survival voices aren't just female either. So let's change the voice that we are hearing, because really, aren't we all survivors of life? People telling me their stories, real stuff that they carry, real stuff that honestly we all kind of carry. They feel open to share, and I get to tell more stories and connect them with mine. It's kind of a full circle moment, because if you remember, my original plan at the baby age of 21 was to be a journalist. So let's go. Stand Up 8 Season 2 is on its way. In it are more survival stories of life, more true crime, from home invasions to serial killers to human trafficking to drug-fueled gang murders to workplace shootings. I have been hearing this and more. These are true stories of survival. It shows how we're all connected. The more I share, the more my network shares with me. Stories that they thought they could never tell.